99.5 FM. Kaicho Radio, the radio with a difference.
Is 13 hours 35 in Guyana, and you're listening to Kaichu Radio, the radio with a difference. And it is time for Elections and COVID Watch with senior journalist of Kaichu News, Leonard Gildarie, alongside Dr. Yog Mahadeo at the helm of this afternoon's program. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, dear Kevin Smith. How are you doing? It's Friday. He's not happy, Yog. He's not happy at all. I'm not sure what is happening. Normally, I'm very excited on Friday because it means I have to edit on Saturday. Well, that's a lie. How are you doing over on your side there, on the East Coast there?
Well, I could share Kevin Smith's. It's a happy but still a very sober Friday because you don't know when these elections are going to be over. Until this headache is gone from us, until this depressed state of being is gone, we cannot truly have fun, can we? And then, of course, remember, weekend means we got to stay home. We can't go anywhere.
Well, I'm not sure. I know that you could stand up over where you're living there and look across your window, and you could see a couple of our people from the People's Progressive Party and the coalition while they're overseeing and watching what is happening with the counting. What are you seeing at the moment?
Well, there is the situation is as it was yesterday. The situation is that the recount is ongoing. They're hoping for some equivalency in terms of the numbers of boxes to be counted today. And like yesterday and the days before, there are one or two workstations that we have gotten reports to that are operating at, maybe in a reverse gear sometimes, but very slow.
Are we seeing any possibilities of an end to this, an amicable and good resolution for the people of Guyana?
Amicable, I would hope yes, because Leonard, over the past couple of days, weeks, and even the nights, as you know, we have been talking to various stakeholders in the process, and I think undoubtedly all of the stakeholders have expressed confidence that this the situation is prolonged, it's taking time, but that there will be an end, a certain and definite end. And when Mr. Granger went out there and said he's prepared to accept the results, and I think the opposition said they're prepared to accept whatever comes out of the recount, it places us in good stead.
Well, that's very good. And so I want to say a pleasant good afternoon to our people across this country. We need some upliftment, and I think over the last couple of weeks we've been giving them a little upliftment. All is not about gloom and doom. We are going to light the fire under the feet of our politicians. And not only that, we're going to demand, or we've been demanding, that they do better because we deserve better. So I want to say good afternoon to you people across this beautiful land of ours, wherever you are. And of course, we have so many thousands who've been joining us overseas, Yog. They've been with us day in, day out, from across the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and of course, right next to us here, Brazil. We have lots of Brazilians who live and work in Guyana, and they've been going across the border. We have some news to tell you, not some very good news when it comes to Brazil and coronavirus. And of course, in a little while, we're going to be with Mayor Winston Roberts, and he is from Corriverton, and he's going to tell us what has happened in there. Corriverton, very near to the Suriname borders there, in the quarantine. And so that would be a very hot area when it comes to monitoring, seeing some of the impact of people trying to smuggle themselves across that river, the quarantine river, which is blocked at the moment. So we will be joining me, Winston Roberts, in a very short while. As we speak right now, Yog, it is day 17, I think it is, day 17
Yes.
of the recount. Yesterday, I think you said it is more significantly day 80 since elections, and so we on number 81 days. of elections 2020. And that is something that we must commit to ourselves, never to have a repeat. Yesterday, we would have also told the people of Guyana that the government is saying that they have some possibilities now that you could apply for help if you've been one of the affected persons or by COVID-19, either losing your jobs or maybe you're not making ends meet and you need some hampers or whatever. So they're saying that you could apply to the Ministry of Social Protection. I'm going to try to get that number back to you in a very, very short while, that they could probably call, and you could call that number there and they could tell you how you could apply, either because you've lost your job or because you're getting it very hard, you're a single parent, among other things. And so while we're saying that, I think there's some bad news coming out from Region 7 there. And I think Kevin has been able to put this up now. It is 227-4410. 227-4410. You could call that number there. Our people have been asking us, and they want to know where they could get some help to ease them off of the pressure that's happening because of COVID-19. So, Yog, with regards to elections, it's Friday. The work is continuing over the weekend. Last evening, it was very interesting when it came to Commissioner Sayes Gunraj. The night before, you would have had Commissioner Vincent Alexander, so they are coming. I want to ask you some of the takeaways from Commissioner Gunraj. One of the questions that I did pose to him was, are you prepared on your own or with your colleagues, your commissioners, to ask for a COI? And he was not really committed to that, but he's saying that maybe there's some other mechanisms. What are some of the big things that would have been taken away from that interview last evening?
Well, a couple of things actually, Leonard. One is that as a commissioner, like the previous night, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Gunraj was quite clear that efforts would have been made within the commission to get certain things done. If you recall, the previous night, Mr. Alexander was not shy at saying that, you know, some of the officers, some of the employees of GCOM, he cannot swear for their vigilance and for their good work. And Sayes Gunraj last night, I think, you know, after we got over that little hump of him making that release on behalf of the chairman, and that little release from the chairman herself, Sayes was quite clear that he felt that if the number of workstations are to increase with immediacy, that there will be a shorter, we all know this, that the recount will be done in a faster manner. However, he was equally outspoken in lamenting, sharing your and mine lamentation, that GCOM cannot even meet now. I mean, Leonard, what's the delay for you guys to meet and say, okay, if we go as is, here are the amount of days. If we get one more workstation, here are the amount of days. If we go two more workstations, but bottom line, worst case scenario is so many more days. What is so hard for these 7 people to sit and make such numbers available to the public? So he was very forthright in that he believed that, yes, that is something GCOM can do. He also expressed some great concerns at the numbers of observations that were being made. The one question he's unable to answer us, and is something that I think you and I need to press others for an answer for. So if the recount is finished tomorrow, hypothetically, if the recount is finished tomorrow, from that time, how much longer will it take GCOM to make a declaration? That, I checked the order. There is no such promise. There is no such timeline in the order that will force GCOM to make a declaration within X amount of time.
Well, you and I a couple of weeks back, and this is an issue that has come up. The role of our politicians, the role of executives who are in charge of our state institutions and other facilities, GCOM being such one. When it comes to our people who've been put there to serve, the mandate is very, very simple in my mind's eye, Yog, which is we should not be begging you for you to deliver what you have promised or you have committed to when you took up that job. When you became an RDC chairman or a mayor or NDC overseer, There are certain things that comes with the territory. When I became a reporter, there's certain things that I would have had to adhere to, which is to serve the people. We not here. This
Correct.
job is not about Gildarie.
Correct.
It is not about Yog Mahadeo or about the Glen Lal.
And Leonard,
Go ahead.
correct.
Go ahead, Yog.
Mhm. And Leonard, the other issue here, I mean, I just seen one of my good friends, he made a comment with regards to his belief is that there is no need for a COI. Basic law needs to be followed to place charges, criminal charges for those involved in an election fraud. Pretty much, it's what Mr. Gunraj might have intimated, not necessarily in those words last night, as to whether a COI is needed. But here is where I'm coming from. Leonard, a COI would look beyond a one-man or two-man's operation. In other words, I'll tell you this. Who instructed the police to lock the commissioners out of the building? Who made that call? What investigation was done on that bomb scare call? There's many dimensions to elections 2020 that just mere casting a blame on Mr. Mingo or Mr. X, Y, and Z will not suffice. It needs an overall holistic investigation as to the entire operations. And I think that's where you and I have been coming from when we're talking about COI.
Well, Yoga, let me answer it in such a way. I wasn't so sure whether it's a COI or audit or whatever it is. What I do know in my head, that I'm thinking that if you have an inquiry into anything that has to do with GCOM and March the 2nd, 2020 elections, and you cannot stop or start at March the 2nd, you'd have to go back with the whole list and everything and look back at how the whole operations come. But then you would also have to look beyond that. What would have happened? What's the role of the returning officer? Who did what? And then, of course, there's going to be that very, very important part, the recommendations. And if somebody did something wrong and that inquiry found so, then what happens? Do they pass it over to the police? Were systems breached deliberately? We're seeing right now the courts have been ruling on whatever else it is, but there would have to be like how you would have had, I think, SOCU, where we know we're not too happy with the system. SOCU, we spent over $100 million to do several audits. They call it forensic audits. Some other persons might say it is not. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, we spent a lot of money. We embarrassed a lot of people, put them before the courts. Some of it justifiable, some of it not. Because I think we should have done a little more investigation. Did we get value for our money when it comes to those audits, those forensic audits? Did we see value for our money from the police who would have done the investigation via SOCU and otherwise? But we look forward now going to the COI or an inquiry or whatever you want to call it. It has to be done. People need closure. People need to know that Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie played such and such a role in this election. Did the media play a role? Somebody needs to look into the entire thing. What role did the administration play in this or the incumbent into the entire process? What role did Mercury play in this entire scenario here? What role did the police play? What role did when it chose Ashman's building to become the returning officer's office of Region 4, District 4? Was that a wise choice? All these things must be told to the people. They need closure. So, Yog, when I was asking Commissioner Says Gunraj that, it is not so much, and I'm not sure whether to quote it in legal language, whether it would be a commission of inquiry, whether it would be an audit, whatever it is. But I need to see, as a Guyanese person, as a citizen of this country, to bring closure, to have some kind of recommendation that's going to come and say, look, this is where we want to be, and Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie need to face criminal charges for what would have transpired, not only before, on elections day, but afterwards, if anything did happen in elections day. But those are my thoughts with regards to that.
And exactly, Leonard, the wideness, the scope of such an inquiry has to be taken in consideration. There are many things, and of course, this is why it cannot or could not just be a simple audit or an investigation by the police. The police's role within the process itself needs to be checked and needs to be amplified, and who was instructed them to do some of the things they did. So we got to look at all of those. We got to take in perspective what each side is saying. And back to the election and what's happening here, Leonard. The narrative is always shifting, of course. I mean, now we are seeing a lot of people saying they want inclusionary governance, they want this, they want that. But I've seen something this morning. Apparently at Sophia Nursery School, at the lower level polling station, they have found 61 unstamped ballots. 61 unstamped ballots. Now hear me out. This is the narrative that is being shared out. 61 unstamped ballots. That's the narrative that went out there. The truth is that one of the persons who worked at the station said that it is not the PO failed to stamp the ballot. It is the fact that she did not fold the ballot correctly, which caused one side of the ballot to be stamped twice and the other side one. Now, this is something that the commission, I think Ms. Ward took pains to explain some of these things. So one has to counter these narratives that an observation is being made, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't mean that it is true. This is why the chairman said yesterday, he who asserts must prove. Mm-hmm. If you say that it's not stamped and it's invalid, then you have to show that it's not because of the folding. The commission is going to take all of these things into consideration, and they're going to make a decision.
Yes, and you use the word narrative there. Very important word, and narratives or several narratives have been coming out over the last couple of months, prior to March 2nd and then afterwards. And so the narrative keeps shifting.
And tonight, Leonard, you and I will be having a discussion in 592 with the private sector observers. Mm-hmm. And I want to take the private sector observers right back into the polling booth and let them, because remember, the observers, people in this country have forgotten that there were international observers that were visiting the polling stations too. Right? Mm-hmm. And so tonight we're gonna do a walk through all of those processes, have a look at what does folio really means, and we're gonna have the private sector observers who are observing the current recount tell us exactly what is going on.
Absolutely, Yog. And so there is that other development story. This is not only about elections. We're talking here COVID-19, very, very important. The entire country has been put on a pause, a slow march, if you want to say that, with regards to COVID-19. And we would have spoken yesterday to one of our reporters in Region 7, Edward Passad, who has been indicating to us what has been seen there. That's the increasing number of Venezuelans and Brazilians and new faces all the time. So it seems as if people are still crossing the border. That's the conclusion. Today, I think, and I'm going to go straight into Region 7 when we should be paying attention. We know what is happening over in Brazil. 20,000 deaths it is, Yog. Brazil is creeping up. It's slowly, or not slowly, very quickly overtaking the rest of the other countries in the world to become one of the top countries where, and it's not a good thing to have yourself labeled as that, to become one of the top countries where the deaths are very, very high. And they seem to be running out of hospital spaces. But more importantly for Guyana is because it's a very fluid situation at the border, wide open borders, especially in Region 9, over 1,000 miles of open borders where people have been crossing. In fact, they've been using satellite phones and so to evade the authorities. And today, Region 7, I think this is Gifford Marshall, he is the mayor in Region 7, and I think next week we're going to get him on the program. But he's indicated that there's a statement coming out from Dr. Edward Sagala, and he's a senior public health consultant, physician and surgeon, and the regional health officer for the Cuyuni Mazaruni region, number 7. And what they're saying there, they have 7 cases now and 2 isolated cases with travel history into the Aranca area. Now, this is important. The Aranca area is a big mining area, gold-rich area in the Cayuni. And so if you have one person coming out of there, this is deeply, deeply worrying. We know that mining has been continued. The authorities have allowed mining to continue as an essential service or activity, and they have not stopped it. So if you have Brazilians coming across and Venezuelans mixing, and you have cases, 7 cases in Region 7 alone now, it is a big number, and it is something that we should be really worried about. They're asking the doctor, the RHO is asking that the people of Guyana remain calm in light of the situation. However, more than ever, all persons are strongly urged to pay strict attention to all the prevention guidelines that the Department of Health has been that the Department of Health has been issuing. We can control for the spread of COVID-19 in our community only if we observe and abide by the various advisories. And in a very short while, we'll be speaking to Mayor Winston Robert of Corriverton. That's one of the tongue in the east, in Berbice. And that is neighboring with Suriname, that tongue there. So we'd have to have an idea as to what is happening. So, Yog, in the meantime, while that is happening, have you been having an indication, or do you have the impression as if we have this thing under control? I know the number of deaths have really, how you say it, we have not had a death in Copperwell maybe a week or two now, but at the same time, we saw some worrying things. At the Palms, we saw some deaths. We saw at least one or two deaths, but there would have been at least 4 or 5 persons infected, including a healthcare worker that's there. Now you're here in the Mazaruni area, you're here in the Region 9 area, which borders with Brazil as well. Do we have this thing under control?
No. And I'll tell you why. Until you can get the numbers, Leonard, would anybody be able to say how many tests are done on a daily basis? Or whether they have received the new test kits into the country with the enzymes and all of that Kaiser News would have responded or would have reported on. Until you can have a lot of these tests done, you do not know the number of persons that are at risk in the country or that have the disease or going around with the disease. If you listen to, there's a nice CNN with Sanjay Gupta yesterday that somebody shared with me, where they have been talking about why are all these numbers going up in Brazil and going up in the USA and so forth. Well, the numbers are going up because the number of tests they're doing per day, Leonard, have been increasing. So the more tests you do, you are going to find the more persons who have been exposed. The persons may have already been exposed and may have already been talking, walking, living, and exposing other people. So that's one of the bottom line. And until we can get straight numbers coming from the authorities as to how many tests they're doing every day, we cannot gauge what's the exposure of the nation.
Well, if you take into consideration what would have occurred in Region 9, that's the biggest region in the entire Guyana. Lots of long borders and so on. One vendor that was going from village to village, and that's a story that is not really coming out very clearly. I don't think people really understand that, but for me, I understand it very, very clearly. One vendor who was infected, who was crossing the border illegally, it seems, was the one that went through several villages, not only in North Rupununi, but in South Rupununi. And so he would have been touching with many, maybe passing his goods over to the people and so on. So right now, we have more than 30 persons in home isolation, mandated home isolation, ordered by the authorities in Region 9, and I presume by the National Task Force. And that's all because what they believe is from one person. They have not finished making the back checks to see who else he would have come in contact with in the North Rupununi side. So those number of home isolation in that region is expected to rise because they would be probably testing some other people as well. So Yog, it is deeply worrying that if we don't pay attention, if we don't continue adhering to it, wearing our mask and so on, we take this thing for granted as if it's happening, something happening at border market or Starbucks market, and it doesn't happen here. We have to take it because people, whether you like it or not, I was even thinking right at Kaiser News, maybe one, two of our staffers are in minibuses, and so a little slip, anything could happen. So you might be taking precaution, but you don't know. It is just a slip that things could happen. So we are probably gonna try to get Mayor Winston Roberts.
The number you have.
Okay, of the Cariveton, a town in the east, in East Berbice. And so we're going to try to get him so he could give us an update as to what is happening there on the quarantine. So in the meantime, if you're now joining us, let's have a look quickly, Yog. Front page of Kaiser News, Carter Center hits government on commitment to transparency, says unable to finish report. Very important. The Carter Center, is hooked in a battle over coming back here. There's been increasing pressure for them to come back. They have been with us since in the 90s, observing elections. Yes, good afternoon. I'm trying to get on to Mayor Winston Roberts. How are you doing?
Not too bad, I'm quiet.
I'm here with Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and he's listening very carefully, very keenly to what you were saying. And we want to say welcome to you on Kaiser Radio here. And of course, we want to say hello to our people up in Berbice. We have thousands of them who are hooked on, who are listening, and good day to you. What's the weather like up there, sir?
Well, today is a sunny day.
Sunny day.
Yeah. Well, I cannot predict for the evening because they have some heavy clouds in the eastern side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
So sometime we have a rain late in the night, late in the afternoon. But for now, presently, it's a bright sunny day.
Well, I like Cariveton. When I go up there, I pass Kellan, I head down to Mollison Creek area. I like driving there because there's the Quarantine River on the left side if you're heading east.
That's
and
right.
it's a very scenic area. I know the Classic Hotel. I stayed there once,
Okay.
and it's a beautiful. If you've never gone there, Berbice, that area there, very beautiful, very peaceful, lots of breeze,
Right.
and so you're very lucky. But we're very interested, sir, as to what is happening up in Berbice. COVID-19, the Quarantine River is blocked. The Quarantine River is where many people traverse, and it divides Guyana and Suriname. What is happening in East Berbice?
Good. Before you continue, let me help you with a direction. It's not when you're traveling east, it's when you're traveling south. The river is on the eastern side.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You get lost in it. Yes.
That's right. Well, presently, where the waterways are concerned, we had a few boats. We normally just work the passenger services, but since COVID-19, our set of boats they stopped the operation. They are grounded. But what you find happens, you have a few Suriname boats. They did the little operation in the night because we have the neighborhood police, and they have the CPG. They are very active in the community. And 1 2 nights they do the here boat operation when they're running the boat and drive off, whatever. But it's not really boat from our end because they restrict our boat of operating. So we do have 1 2 cases in between because I can remember Sunday morning I received a phone call that some Chinese people been offloaded in a village near 73, the Coca.
Mm-hmm.
So I rush in. When I rush in there, the car already moved out, but I summons the enforcement officer who's up at Springlands, and they did vent. But that was already finished and gone. So we're keeping our eyes wide open, our ears wide open. The moment we hear anything, we inform the police and get things going.
Now, I want to ask you, and I know Yog is very familiar. He's from that area there.
He's on
He's
65 village.
65. You see, everybody knows Yog Mahadeo up there. And Yog, we'd have to take a trip sometime there. But I want to ask you, the little that I know of it is that Berbice has a very close relationship with Suriname. People have been crossing, like when they come into Georgetown, like when I'm going to Georgetown and become a norm. And so the closure of that, the quarantine river to the borders and so on, would have had some kind of impact on trade, business, and among other things for Barbicians. Could you tell us a little about that, what you see and what you know?
Well, the business in Suriname, where the boat used to operate, we have a sufferance wharf at Line Park, D. All right, we have the customs and enforcement that's come and check out the goods. But since they stopped the operation, but not now, quite some time, it not just stopped because of the COVID. The customs really stopped it in Suriname, and that means phase off. Where the goods has come by hundreds and whatever. Mm-hmm. That has been phased off already. So the containers now that's come through Canoima. For some reason, the Canoima service is down. It's not because of COVID-19 has been done. It's done long before.
Yes.
But the COVID-19 did have an impact on the border. It's not like before. But I'm not saying that things are not happening by the Suriname boats, whatever, because remember, they don't have to get permission to travel because the water belongs to them, actually, put it that way. They have the jurisdiction in it, over it, but not we Guyanese.
So there is. So would you say what are well, we know the story of the fishermen there, of the number, I think 66 co-op. How bad is the situation there, based on what you know?
Okay, we have two sets of license. What you call the BV and the SK. The SK, the deep seas license. Well, the Suriname authority don't affect them that much. But where the BV license fishermen are concerned, in the quarantine river, they restrict them. That's what I know. They restrict the BV licensed fishermen to operate.
And in the area that you, before I handed it over to my co-host, would you say in the area there has many approaches been made to the mayor or the authorities in the area for assistance? Is there a big demand?
Yes, of course. Now, the fact remains is that about 11 farmers who farming along the Quarantine River came into me and asked what assistance can we render to them because their crops are perishing in the farm, on the farmlands. So I write a letter to our original chairman, Mr. David R. Morgan, and with all the signatories of the farmers, and he promised to assist on that, to help and see what best help we can do. Imagine one farmer's spoil over 7,000 of oranges. Now it's cash price season. It's all rotten in the farm.
Why did that happen?
Good.
Because he can't bring it out.
Good question. There was a CDC, Civil Defense Committee.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that they will have to get down to the foreign minister in Guyana, then to Suriname authorities, and then Suriname will grant them the permission to travel. That's what I was made to understand.
And
but the fact remains that these farmers in Corriverton and Crab Creek, they're all taxpayers. You know, and they're not even having no services at all where the farming is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yog?
Yeah, that's a dire situation because Leonard, actually what is happening there because of the security imposed by the Suriname authorities to stop any persons moving over the waters or through the rivers, the farmers cannot bring out their products. But sir, I want to get to more while that is so, and that is appreciated, I'm sure you're working on it. And please
Yeah.
keep us updated as to what progress you have on that. But I want to talk a little bit about the people in your municipality, the people in Riverton, the people in that area. How are they making out? Because we do know that people cannot go to work, so people do not have an income. How are people surviving? Tell us a little bit. And also, sir, how is Kellen Market? Are people there wearing masks? Are they massive assemblage of persons without adherence to the necessary precautions?
Of course, yes. We made a law that any vendors who does not wear a mask, we close their stand down, also with a fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we are having that in place presently. We do had few harmouth ones, I would say, who were not cooperating, but after they paid the fine and them standing closed down, yes, they started to comply with the law, the policy that we made. You must wear a mask vending in the market. So what we did, we closed most of the entrance. We're using a few entrances where we can have a good control over. All right? So,
but wouldn't that kind of funnel more people to walk through one or two places?
No. We try it. We try it.
Okay.
Our
And it
resources,
worked.
our security is a bit meager. So we have to look at our resource also.
Right. But what about the shoppers? So you have managed to control those who are vending, and congratulations on that. That's
even
fantastic.
the customer who going to purchase has to wear a mask. Other than that, we put them out on the road.
Okay. So everyone who access the Riverton market, whether they are buying or selling, they have a mask on.
Of course, yes.
Wonderful. Well, Leonard, that's a great achievement.
Yes, and has there been any decisions or any incidents which would have probably led to the arrest of persons who are not adhering to the COVID measures?
Well, yes. We had the police, which I monitored with them a couple nights, and we started to pick them up. We prosecuted about 20-something of them already. So if you could take a walk up in Riverton, basically, let's say after 6:37, you may not see people walking, but you will see people in vehicle traversing.
Okay. But Leonard, I would like to repeat this thing. I mean, it's not often we get messages like this. Yesterday we heard from Bartica, and it's not as preventative and positive as this. Mayor, I would like to give you guys some kudos. That's a great achievement. I understand, Mayor, that Leonard, it's not just because I'm on the area, but I'm proud of proud of what they have achieved. But Mayor, I understand that over 10,000, over approximately 15,000 masks would have been distributed across the Riverton area, Crabwood Creek, and so forth. And I must say that's a great humanitarian effort, and it's a good job you guys are doing there.
Firstly, where the mass is concerned, let me be bold enough to say it, that the PPP component, or our party, I must say, made a great contribution of thousands of masks. Myself, along with Mr. Dennis DeRup, who is the vice chairman, along with Mr. Adrian Anamaya, attorney at law, and councillors of the municipality share masks in Riverton Market more than 2 occasions. Then after that, private citizens start to make masks and start to donate it.
Good.
All right? So, where the market is concerned, we took time off and share it to every vendors. We didn't ask the vendors to purchase their mask. We provided to them. We give it to them. And said, look, listen, we are giving you this mask to wear. And failing to wear this mask, we're going to close you down, also with a fine. So we have the security moving around in the market. So they become so awareness now. So they spot the security. If they're halfway, then pull it up.
Right. So just as an aside, your friend Azim Ali says hello to you. But let's get to like the areas that the more depressed communities in Corriverton. As you know, there are a couple of depressed communities that do not have access to the regular facilities that everybody else do. How are these people making out? How are they surviving on a day-by-day basis?
All right. For the past 3 weeks, a lot of hampers been given with business community and people overseas who has joint account with people in Corriverton. Permission been granted to go, take some money from the bank and buy stuff and share it in the community. For example, 79 area, that area on the waterside over, within 2 weeks, share hampers over 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So people overseas is assisting.
Great.
They are assisting.
Great.
And not in 79 alone, the entire Corriverton.
Mm-hmm. So at least Leonard, I think from a reporter, from a newspaperman basis, you would be proud that one of the communities, the Berbice end of the wise people are taking it to heart and are doing the best they could do.
Well, that is what we've been calling for, Yog and Mayor. We've been calling for corporate Guyana, for responsible citizens. If you're a little better off, a little better healed, that you come forward, put everybody hands on deck, and let us see how we can alleviate some of the sufferings of our people less fortunate. And we know that there are many of them there. Would you say, Mayor, that the situation is under control?
Repeat again one thing.
Would you say that the situation is under control, Mayor?
Of course, yes. We do.
Well, I do.
Okay.
I do thank you. I'm not sure if you have any other question, Yog, but it's good to know.
Mayor, your municipality, can you just give us an idea of the width of it, where it starts, where it ends?
Okay, it starts from number 75 village. Coming up, when you're coming up on the road, it starts there and ends at Blackwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Blackwater is past Crabwood,
Creek.
or there's Crabwood, okay.
Yeah. So the persons. Let's talk. For example, another community. Let's pick Line Path, Corriverton. Are all of those people also? You're satisfied they are adhering to all the protocols for COVID and so forth?
Yes. Even
good.
Though,
and how?
Even though the fishermen, when one see them on the public road, they are having their mask, traversing on the road. But when they reach at the back dam, I can't say more about that. But I'm telling you that if you see the fishermen going to the back dam, or driving the road, so as to get to the road to the back dam, they have their mask.
Right. Wonderful. Because Leonard, I understand Dr. Mahadeo has said to me that what they have done is even they have shared out masks to the taxi drivers. They haven't left anybody. Everybody has been touched one way or another, virtually or via a mask, to get protection. Mayor, I want to quickly talk a little bit about, is there any activity at the Sugar Estate? Anything at all happening there?
The SEI is working. The Skellen Emergency Energy Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is current, but nothing else.
Right. Nothing else. So the entire operation is closed. What's happening?
Mention it through the air.
Okay. Okay. So the cultivation is all now being taken over by jungle, basically. Is that so?
Taken over by who? The tongue?
Bushes, the jungle,
yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Okay. And final question on that regard. The entire Corriverton area, I mean, maybe the entire area, including further up the coast, would have all been heavily dependent on Daisuku's maintenance of DNI, of drainage and irrigation. What's happening there now?
No, the DNI is in operation. They are working.
Oh, good.
Because with all the rainfall that we had, right, we didn't get no serious complaint of any blockage, whatever. And I guess 2 or 3, what we call sluice or coca is in operation.
Okay.
I mean, the DNI is working.
Well, at least
and Dr. Mahadeo has informed me that you all have shared masks. Well, he said all of you have gotten together. I think Leonard, why I asked about the estate, even those people working in the power section there, they too were not left out of the mask distribution. Everybody was given a mask in that area.
I must tell you this: myself, along with 3 councillors, took in approximately about 50 to 60 masks to the manager of the SEI.
Good.
They have photographic evidence to support that. I mean, they just want to tell you that, and it's not been materialized. You know, we did that also. Thank you. Drivers, once we share in the market, the car park is just around, so we share and give it to them too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So there you would have had it, Mayor Winston Roberts. I want to say thank you very much, Mayor. He's the mayor of Corriverton on the East Babisa area, on the quarantine there. And I want to say thank you very much, sir, for sharing with us a little about what is happening there. And I'm glad that you did say that the situation is under control, that it's not on a runaway train there. So thank you very much, Mayor. And of course,
one more thing.
Yes,
this
sir.
Person, Azim Mohammed. This guy got a small green vehicle.
Oh, I don't know. He just sent a message to say hello to you, sir. But it's been good to have you on. It's been good to have you on, Mayor, and I thank you. But one other thing I would ask, as you get any information especially with regards to access over and through the waterways, the riverine areas and communication there, do let us know. Leonard, I don't know whether Mayor is able to say whether Corriverton, his municipality, has gotten access to and have been able to interact with the CDC's outreach, looking at public assistance and so forth from the CDC website.
Good question. Have you taken any notice of that, Mayor?
What happened? Someone called me recently from the CDC. Right? So I asked them, is the Civil Defense Committee? And they told me yes. They did mention to me that should we have a breach at St. Corriverton, to give them a call. So when I asked the person to give me a name, I said name is not necessary. You can give me a number, some 600, 7500. So I don't know whose number is it. If they would have given me a name of somebody, well, then I would have called that number and asked to speak to that person. Supposing I took that number and I called, there's a breach, and I call, and someone answer me, and I will say that somebody called me this number, that whenever we got a breach, call it, and that person going to tell me, well, I just know about it. I didn't need somebody from the CDC to give me a name, so whenever I got a complaint, I can call that number and ask for such and such person. I don't know if this number is CDC number.
Very good. So, Mayor, thank you very much for that. Mayor of Corriverton, Winston Roberts, would have been with us over the last 15-20 minutes to tell us about what is happening there in the eastern part of Guyana. So, sir, thank you very much. We would want to invite you again sometime in the future to give us some more updates, what is happening in your area there. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. So there you would have had it, Mayor Winston Roberts, the mayor of Corriverton. And Yog,
and Leonard, that is good news. And let me just extend to, remember 2 or 3 weeks back, we had a a discussion with a gentleman from 55 Village.
Yes.
And they were engaged in a huge mask distribution exercise. I think, speaking to Dr. Mahadeo yesterday, they had distributed a couple hundred of the N95 masks to people in the hospital. Some critical services were given. I know the police service were given masks and so forth. So in a lot of ways, various communities have stepped up to the plate and they are doing what they're doing. There's one little problem I've seen. I don't know whether it is, it's something that we probably would have to check out. A couple of persons have been reporting that the access to the CDC number and the website may seem to have been problematic. I don't know whether they didn't anticipate such volume, but it's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But certainly, if viewers and listeners have gotten through, please let us know. Because, Leonard, it's good to report success factors. It's good to report when things are happening too.
But no, it is good, Yog, and we will continue as we get the information too, because we have been asking for, because people have been asking us if we could give them some kind of indications as to where they could get some help. And CDC, Ministry of Social Protection, and the government by itself, they said that they have set up this mechanism now. You apply, and if you fall within the category, you're going to get some help. And the senior citizens, the persons who would apply for public assistance, as well as if you would have lost your job because of COVID-19, they have some kind of mechanism now. You could either go on the website, the Ministry of Social Protection website, to fill out the application there, or you could... Right. Go ahead, Yog.
I didn't say anything. That's probably Kevin Smith doing his thing there.
Yeah. Kevin always butts in whenever he's not supposed to. So we are going to go to the phone lines in a couple of minutes. And in fact, I think people have been waiting there. 2267453. 2267453. Or you could also WhatsApp us on 6222222. There's somebody on air there. Let's go straight. Yes. Good afternoon. You're on Kaicho Radio.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's nice to hear about Corribaton, but it's worrying to understand what's happening in the other areas that seems not to be mine. I haven't heard about what I heard about Bartica and in the interior area, and that's only the one number that we have. Mm-hmm. But the number that you gave to CDC, I have wronged it, and I haven't gotten through since yesterday. I went to both of the websites. And I must confess, I am not too illiterate when it comes to these computers and what to do. And to this moment, I can't get to find the place where this application is. So I don't know what it is you have to do. If somebody could give some idea how you find this application. Because all you're seeing is what it's telling you what to do.
Well, we would have shared the numbers or the number that they would have given us, and that's would read out the information there. It's interesting that you say that you're not getting through. For that caller, we'd have to check on it ourselves to see whether the number is working, one, and whether the linkage to the website, whether it's up and running. Because I rather suspect what you said.
I can confirm that the link is working. I've opened it in front of me here now.
Yes.
If you go to government.gy/eform/241, you are getting immediately to the form that you would have to fill. And it is a simple form. The questions, for example, would you be comfortable having your information shared with Ministry of Public Health? Yes or no? The region that you live, your name, the name of your address, date of birth, gender, marital status, if people are dependent on you, and if you lost your job via COVID-related scenario, and things like that. What your salary has been like, and those kinds of information. And at the bottom, you can review and you can submit.
Absolutely, and I do thank you for that. And so we're going to try to get the number that they would have put up. I'm going to ask Kevin to probably put it back on screen so we could see back that number. In the meantime, we want to hear from you, the people of Guyana. What is happening in your area? COVID-19. Is it affecting you? Have you remained unscathed by what is happening there? So we want to hear from you. 2267453, or you could WhatsApp us your messages to 6222222. I think there's a call online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Yeah, good afternoon, Gildarie and Dr. Yog.
Good afternoon.
I'm calling regarding America Street and the Starbrook area. Seems like no one has regarded for COVID. They are not wearing their masks. The people, the vendors, the minibus conductors, even some of the stores are letting people go in without face masks. And it seems like business as usual.
That's your observation. Any other question? Could we answer you off here?
Yeah, you could answer me off here, but then you could just, I would love to see the mayor come out and see what's going on in America Street. All the money changers are without masks, which in they're applying a trade which is not legal.
Right.
And there's a bunch of the conductors, the touts, everybody, they're just like, they're not even wearing it. They have it on their chin, and that's not the right way to go.
Well, Yog and I and other persons who would have been reaching out to us is telling us that it's business as normal for many people. In fact,
we can certainly try to get a mayor next, maybe on Monday.
yes, we are going to get May. Brad Ryan has always been very
Correct.
helpful, and he's always been very friendly. We're going to bring him. But Yog, to answer the caller, yesterday I was in Regent Street, and there are a couple of businesses that open as normal. I saw the Chinese would have had some stores open and so on. So I'm not sure, but today I did go to the official gazette with regards to the COVID-19 emergency measures that were published, announced by the task force, by the Ministry of Health rather. And so I would probably be going through it in a very short while. But the number that we would have gotten is 227-4410 with regards to assistance. If you were looking for assistance because you've lost a job or you believe that you're one of the vulnerable group, it's 227-4410. So that is a number that you call if you want to have a query. How do you go about applying for whatever it is, the help that they're going to give to the families, the vulnerable families. So Yog, I think our number, if you want to call us, 226-7453. We want to hear what is happening in your area, your community, when it comes to
Leonard,
COVID-19. Yes, Yog, quickly. Yes.
Meanwhile, we are doing that. I want to just go back to something you said at the top of the program. How do we look at the Guyana numbers with regards to COVID? Do these numbers make sense? And remember, you and I discussed at the top of today's program that the numbers will only start to make sense when we are having a truthful reflection of how many testing they're doing per day. You see, Leonard, the numbers will only show a trend if you have a consistent base. So if you're doing, let's say you're doing 500 tests a day, you have to do 500 tests a day for, let's say, 10 days, 15 days. Consistently, you have to do those numbers of tests so that you start to get what is a baseline.
Right.
And on that baseline, you will know whether you're going up or you're flatlining or you're going down or whatever it is. But those are the kinds of metrics we would need from the authorities.
Well, we don't have any kind of information as to that, so we go straight to the phone line. Yes. Good afternoon, calling you on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, Gildarie. Good afternoon, Mr. Yo.
Yes.
Your last caller, what he says is really true. This coronavirus, and people still not taking this thing seriously. There is one. People still not wearing their mask. I can tell you many parts of the area what happens. You don't have many people going to enforce these kind of rules. Like in the Parika, in the Bagdam area, by the Forest Coca to the Hubu, to the St. Lawrence and so on, right? People don't observe this rule, and this is not really a nice thing happening, right? Many parts of the country, but also there is many parts in this country I know people don't move around. So people don't understand what some of the communities are facing, right? I could tell you, some communities I know for a fact people eating green mango will survive. Some people eating salad rice. And that just hurt my heart to see at this day and age in the 21st century people have to go through this. So I don't know if anything could be put in place where they could have teams visiting most vulnerable communities and so on, so they could see people who really in need of something, whether if it's some food items or maybe some used clothes or something, or we need something. I think when pensioners go to draw their pension, they should also have a hamper there to give each one of them. That is what I think need to be done here right now. Concerning the election, I would say this. I am not following election from the longest while, but this election here, I paid a lot of attention to it. and I am also still doing better because the process haven't completed as yet. And what I have observed, it was marked or they would nickname the mothers of all elections, but it seems as if we are getting the father of all results. That it looked like to me, right? But why I would have accepted right now going into 80-something days, I don't see we have a chairman of the GCOM there who is vibrant, who is energetic, she's not engaging the media. She's not speaking to the Guyanese public. I think we cannot accept Yolanda Ward out there to speak. Let her speak so we can hold forward to this. Like you said, this country is currently on a pause for months, and we cannot allow this to continue. So I think in the future we got to look. Fed up with this fit and proper kind of thing, and you have people at 84 years and 80 years who hardly could walk and hardly could talk, be in this position where this position needed to be awake for 24, 36, or 48 hours straight. We have a GCOM chairman there who is not communicating with us. She needs to come out, she needs to speak. We could hold her and get her on record, because we don't want at the end of this, if we manage to get to the end of this recount, we're going to have a long process before we have the final declaration and a swearing in and whatsoever on which side it go for. So I think we need to repair this thing and look after this for the future. We need more I don't have a problem if people old and they want this position if they qualify, but they must be able to function properly.
Yes.
That is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are some very pertinent points, Yog, and the thing that he said there about some people eating green mango, he couldn't even imagine that we'd reach a day like this. This is something we want to hear, these stories where it's happening in whichever community, so we could be able to pass this information on. We've been a very proud people, very reserved set of people for a very long time. People don't want to talk about it, but I think we should get out of our shell, and we have to start telling these stories. So maybe we as a people, we are mature people, we are decent people, we could be able to extend a hand, brace each other until such time that we could be able to stand on our own 2 feet again. I think there's a Yog. Is there anything maybe you'd want to comment with regards to the caller?
No, I cannot disagree with the caller, and this is why, Leonard, you are part of our team here. I mean, we do distributions, we take things out to people, and yes, those who go out to the field, you see how people are struggling. You see how people are, suffering, needing a meal or two. Leonard, we have taken some foodstuff to some real depressed communities. When you go to these communities, Leonard, you can be whatever man you want to call yourself, whatever big person, whatever woman you want to call yourself, but you are reduced to tears when you go into some of these places.
No, it is indeed true. There's so many things that we live. Someday you jump in if you have a vehicle, you go, you do what you have to do. But take a little time to look out through the window, get out the car, walk, see what is happening. It gives you a different perspective on life. I think there's a caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, both gentlemen, both of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
How is your day going?
Well, we're doing what we have to do. We've been doing this for the last, 80 days? 80-something days?
I know, Leonard. I keep a check 85, 86 days.
Yes, thank you.
And you got a mastermind there, man. A man with good intelligence. I'm sorry I don't have some of his brains, Mr. Yog. Now, Leonard, Yog, I had breakfast this morning, and I sat down in my chair. And I got a lot of thoughts run through my head. I said 6 years back, look how this country went. People was laughing, enjoying. When you go to work, you go with a happy mood and these things like that. Now, if you see people faces in the morning, even to the job, their own job, they don't want to go. You got a set of people in this country who are running the face, they got sheer venom inside them. When I say venom, like Labara bites you, you don't have to come back. And these people want power at any cost. They will do anything. Look what these people doing to their supporters. Those 2,339 polling agents. These people should have come out and say, hey, stop this nonsense. We were inside here, not like this ever start happening. You are degrading us and degrading this country. I must stop this stupidness where you all going on with. You all only fooling people in this place here. And I know a lot of them. I spoke to about 2 of them yesterday. One time he said, boy, When your dog accustomed to sucking, he can't stop. He said he voted for PNC how many years? His family was a PNC member. But right now they are suffering because he is a carpenter and mason. He's out of a job and he got 4 children. He can't even make it. Another thing too, I think the embassies in this country should have taken these people in visa. Here they are right now. They must eat and live in Guyana. Wherever they're sick, they must go to the Georgetown Hospital. The EU, the American ambassador, the Canadian, the United Kingdom, take their visas away and their associates, and let's see what's going to happen to them. These people only got one thing in mind: power at any cost. They will bring all the excuses about this bogot. I think sooner or later you might want to might publish a book with them. You know, like we had a Jim Jones story. We can publish a book or make a movie out of them. Thank you, sir, and both of you continue. I listened to your program nighttime 592, and it was a very interesting program last night too.
Thank you very much, sir. So, Yog, I want to take some time very quickly, as usual. Our callers, the ordinary man on the street, they have their own take on situation, and sometimes we sit here and we're not able to see it, but they drive that message home very in a very strong way. But I want to tell you that I'm going to bring you back to the COVID-19 emergency measures that were published in the official gazette by the Ministry of Public Health. And let me tell you very quickly what is not supposed to be open. You're not supposed to, let me go straight into that. Essential services. They're saying that the only, all services shall remain closed except for the following: hospitals, healthcare, medical services, including pharmacies, drugstores, and private vet services, nursing homes, orphanages, shelters, and other related care centers, immigration, Guyana Revenue Authority, electricity services, water supply, discipline services, prison services, solid waste companies, sewerage, janitorial services, air traffic control, Demerara and Berbice Bridge, hotels and accommodation, factories, manufacturers, distribution of food supplies and essential goods, including medical supplies, where the Ministry of Public Health has determined that the continuation of these operations do not pass the risk to public health. The following services may be open between 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. That is the banks, markets and supermarkets, fruits and vegetable stalls, and neighborhood shops. You have food services and restaurants only for delivery. You can go and eat there, and drive-thrus and takeaway services, and of course gas stations. We would have seen yesterday some videos of a funeral in Berbice that the people were walking almost hand in hand, and the vehicles very close together, and that's a big no-no because there are restrictions on social activities according to that COVID-19 emergency measures.
Sir, Berbice is a very big place. Don't give the entire Berbice bad name because of 1 or 2 villages.
No, I know that you're going to protect them, but it came from Berbice, though, Yog, and so I'm really sorry. I know that you would want to protect them, but it's all right.
Well, I am at the East Coast, and I am not at the America Street. The rest of East Coast are behaving properly. But the truth is that you are right, and I think, Leonard, sorry to have to interject, but I think the reasonability that the police is applying to different scenarios is questionable. So there was that funeral that you guys reported on, that we understand police presence have been seen, and they did nothing. In Essequibo, we hear of similar instances where there was supposed to have been a cremation, and the police basically turned up, and everybody at the cremation had to go home. Whether it's right or wrong, there has to be a equitable, translation of these rules and these laws across the country.
Yes, and I agree with you. But what we're doing, because you would hear from time to time, people text me, call, and says, what really is supposed to remain closed or not. So I just decided to pull this out back again, because yesterday on Regent Street, you have hardware stores and you even see some boutiques open. And so you want to know what really is happening here. when they say restriction on social activities, no person shall host, attend or visit a private party or recreational competitive
Correct.
sporting event. You can't go to a wedding other than the bride, the bridegroom, official witnesses, and the marriage officer. You can't go to a banquet hall or ball or reception, a bar or rum shop, the seawall, a pool, creek or river, a wake or vigil, a gym, a beauty salon or spa, a club or disco, a meeting of fraternal society, private or social club, or civic association or organization, or any other social activities. And of course, you can go to these water sports that maybe if you have the jet bikes. And they said no more than 10 mourners. This is with regards to funeral. No more than 10 mourners, an officiant, and a funeral director and the necessary staff shall attend the funeral. And of course, you can't visit any place of quarantine or isolation if it's Diamond or wherever. You can't visit a prison or correctional facility or a patient in a hospital, nursing home, senior citizens, or any other care facility. And the curfew, they said, is hereby imposed throughout Guyana until June the 3rd. And I presume they're going to come back.
But Leonard, you see, the problem I have is that the laws or those rules, that ordinance has been published and has become law. What is it that makes a Riverton implement those rules and stand by them? What makes a Crabwood Creek do it, but not a Bartica? What makes certain places in this country adhere to these rules, protect themselves, but the rest of the country behaves so it's one door open, wide open to create all the problems for those who are trying to protect themselves? And that's where you have a continuous problem with a number of things, isn't it? Because unless everybody adopts the same measures. Now let's come back to what you talked about there earlier. You said that there are some businesses in Regent Street that may have opened. I want to draw another dimension to that without discussing the legal side of it. The ordinance is there and we know that's law. But Leonard, the truth is that if 100,000 persons have been working and are now not receiving a salary, how are they going to live? So what has been happening, as you know, Leonard, there are employees who are now calling on employers, can you please help us out? Can you please do something? We need to survive.
Well,
I don't know how to excuse it. It's inexcusable because the law is the law. But at the same time, there has to be a humanitarian consideration. And, the authorities are saying nothing. Leonard, you are here reading the law to the people. Where is the COVID task force and when last did it meet with the public?
Well, I don't know, but I'm looking here at a press release that is issued now by the National Task Force just a few moments back. And it says that NCTF, there's a National COVID-19 Task Force, has approved conditional re-entry of Guyanese stranded overseas. And let me quickly read it because a lot of people have been calling us what is happening with the people overseas.
But not the Carter Center.
Not the Carter Center. And let me go down and read it because I think you're preempting me. So let's go. The National COVID-19 Task Force today held a special meeting to consider the applications of various groups of Guyanese stranded overseas as a result of COVID-19 emergency measures and who have requested returning to Guyana. Within the controlled re-entry policy, the task force has approved the return of approximately 300 Guyanese nationals who are stranded overseas and who have registered with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs via Guyanese Embassy, High Commissioners and Honorary Consuls. Their approval encompasses Guyanese nationals in Trinidad and Tobago, in New York, New Jersey, Florida, and other states of the U.S. of America and other countries. The approval is strictly subjected to the following conditions. Only applicable to Guyanese nationals resident in Guyana who are stranded overseas and who registered with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as of Thursday, May the 21st, 2020. This approval is not applicable at this time to Guyanese nationals who are resident in other countries. So if you've been living overseas and you want to come back, no. You had to go there and then you were stranded. Guyanese nationals in possession of a valid Guyanese passport. The Immigration Department of Guyana will only accept any passenger whose Guyanese passport expired within 6 months prior to arrival. All requirements of the Ministry of Public Health and other relevant ministries and agencies being fulfilled. results of the COVID-19 test, PCR, with results in English language being provided at least 48 hours prior to arrival. The applicants or the employees covering the costs for their return. So I don't think the government would be paying for the cost for the return. Entry is permitted by air only. The task force reiterates that no person who tests positive for COVID-19 will be permitted entry into Guyana, and that all arriving passengers must undergo the PCR test and submit the results, which must be in English at least 48 hours. I think they were also saying that the Guyana airspace, and this might answer your question, your preemption there, Yog. The NCTF reaffirms that Guyana airspace remains closed, and the flight applications for each arriving flight related to this approval of their return of the approximately 300 stranded Guyanese must be submitted by the airline or operator to GCAA. I think that's about it. We have one of our staffers here at Kaiser News stuck at Aruba or something. I think he went there for a wedding. And so Aruba has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. But COVID-19, the beaches don't look so beautiful anymore when you're stuck overseas and you want to come back home. And the vacation is over. And it is a different world altogether. It will never be the same based on what we're seeing. I think it was either Google or Facebook was saying that based on what they know, it is going to take years before we could do the kind of maybe never that we could do the kind of socializing that we are accustomed to as a people. Yog, your thoughts?
Yes. Look, what can you say? The airspace is open for some, but it's not open for some of the international observers. If you recall, when we had a discussion with Mr. Hamilton Green it seems like it's just a long time ago, but it's just a week ago, he expressed a personal aversion to the Carter Center. And I think what he expressed there is reflective of the aversion that the entire APNU AFC political grouping feel. They have something personal against the Carter Center. Don't forget, it is the Carter Center that put them in government or was instrumental in ensuring that all the rules was being followed to have APNU AFC in government in 2015. So I find it extremely negative for Guyana that we can continue keeping all the Carter Center while using COVID-19, while still opening the airspace to allow others to come in. At the same time, though, it is a good thing that, our brothers and sisters, wherever they are stuck, could get home. Because, Leonard, can you imagine with the huge numbers in New York? If you're stuck in New York, you'd want to get away from there.
Yeah, because remember, you can't. If you go to New York, you go to Manhattan, you're going all around the place to do whatever socializing, shopping, and so on. For you not to be able to do anything, you might as well get home. What are you doing over there? And then, of course, with that situation there, it is a scary situation. You can't go anywhere, especially the majority people in that Queens area, there, Guyanese, Bronx area, and that's what is hardest hit. The epicenter of what is happening in the U.S. there. So deep worry if you're stuck over there, if you're stuck in any other place except Guyana. I would want to get over. I'd paddle a boat and get over here. So I think there's a caller online. Caller, good afternoon, you're in the air.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie, and good afternoon, Dr. Yog.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am very concerned. I have a request, very concerned about the CDC. For the past many weeks, you can see business entity giving the CDC hundreds of thousands of dollars in foodstuff, and you're not hearing or seeing the CDC doing any distribution, most average. What I would advise these business people to do, if possible, they could, they target a community, okay, like this community who deserve it. Share it out themselves. Ask people to assist them in packing it and distribute it themselves. Because it seems to me like the CDC is a political part that is going on. Because, my poor people got in eating and surviving. And CDC, you got to apply through this, apply that really food to eat. So, and these business people, you give it for yesterday alone, the single gave them $400,000 in food stuff. If the single come to a community and distribute that in food, you know how much people could get that food and they can be getting it blissful. Secondly, with the Carter Center, I think why they don't want to bring these people is because of the dossier that they do. They're very embarrassed and they're afraid that everything will be coming up. Thank you very much, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And of course, let me go straight to the CDC, Yog. I would have spoken to Colonel Kester Craig, and I think they were waiting on a decision by the CDC, and they were working to gather some information with the National Data Management Authority. I think with that with the announcement that was made early this week, with regards to how they would go about doing the distribution now, with people registering, that he might be in a better position to talk. Of course, I've known Mr. Craig for a little while, at least been monitoring his work, and I think they are responsible there, as CDC has been under many training to deal with emergency measures, to deal with emergency situations. And so I think they would want to be responsible. However, it's a different thing. We have never really dealt with something like COVID-19. But Yog, your thoughts?
Well, indeed, we got to talk to them, Leonard. I mean, I think having them at the table, but my concern, Leonard, is, look, you have a COVID task force. Why is Guyana such a negatively different place from the rest of the world? Leonard, every day in other countries, the emergency health services or the health team, they are meeting the press. They are giving out information. They're taking answers. They're taking questions and giving answers. In Guyana, you have a group of politicians that comprise the COVID task force, and full stop. When they feel like, when it's their pleasure, they would make a press release, and that's it again. Look, go back to what we said earlier. Where is the baseline of testing? Where is the trend? What is the trend? If the task force is now going to say they're going to ease up on certain things, what is it based on? Leonard, you cannot continue to have a Bartica or a Region 9 or continue to have some towns at Georgetown that is so open with scant regards for people and their safety. And then you're going to have a Corriverton and a Crabble Creek and some other places that is adhering to the letter of the law, literally.
Well, that is the issue. So you want to ask, where is the order? Where's the level playing field? Huh? So we'll have to continue monitoring. I think there's another caller online. Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. You're on the air.
Yes. Yes. I want to continue where Mr. Yog left off. It's not only like we don't have the task force coming out. We don't have the GCOM chairman coming out. We don't even have the president come out and giving briefing regularly, right? But I want to say this: people don't understand what sugar workers was doing in this country. From 2014, the last time Daisuku workers get an increase in salary, and this is 2020. Since the government changed in 2015, not a cent increase, and we have to go to the shop and store to buy at 2020 price. It's not very fair. I would like to know if you guys can educate me or give me the facts about the dossier. Who paying for this dossier? Because what I would know, many Guyanese household right now would have welcomed a $40,000 or a $25,000-$30,000 from the government to help in this current condition. So I would like to know the facts. Who paying for this dossier? Because I understand it's hundreds of thousands of US dollars. So I would want to know if it's our taxpayers paying for this. I would like to see evidence on this thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yog. I don't know. Have anybody borrowed money from you or something lately? Because I don't know how to answer that, gentleman.
Only those who have, they would approach to borrow from, right?
I don't know.
But to answer the question, caller, it is an interesting question. A couple of weeks back, Leonard, if you recall our private conversation, I had shared, I think I was the one that brought it out, that contract that exposed that it was a government of Guyana contract with a lobby firm. And then Mr. David Granger came out publicly and said it's not, he doesn't know about it and he is not part of it. I can confirm that an amendment to that contract has been filed at the Department of Justice in the U.S. If you go to their website, this is all open information, viewers and listeners. It's not that you don't have to only be in the USA to get this information. Anybody from anywhere can go on their website and check, and you will find the document. So that The most recent version of that contract was signed by Mr. Joe Harman and David Patterson on behalf of the APNU AFC, not on behalf of the government of Guyana.
Yes, Yog. And so I think I'm going to try to pull up a story. In the meantime, I think there's another call. But I think this morning, I think it was announced that the U.S. has slapped sanctions on the Nicaraguan Army Chief and Finance Minister. This has to do, I'm going to try to get some details as to why they did that. This time targeting the country's finance chief. In a statement, the U.S. Treasury Department said it's imposed sanctions on Julio Cesar Aviles, Nicaragua's Army Commander-in-Chief, and Ivan Adolfo Acosta, its finance and public sector public credit minister. They said that they did this because of continued violations of basic human rights, blatant corruption, and widespread violence against the Nicaraguan people. And this is coming from the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, I think that is how you pronounce it, in a statement. So I think there's a caller online. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Good afternoon. Just want to thank Mr. Yog for the address. I found the place with the form and I was able to use it.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm happy about that. I'd like to also comment. I'll ask the question. Is it a crime to advertise one thing and do another thing? The reason I'm asking this, in this time, I believe the phone company is being exposed to the fact of the type of service they say they have with internet. And now that people are trying to use it, even doing teaching at home, sometimes you cut off and come on, something, no internet for hours, but you're paying. And I wonder if it's a fact that they said they had one kind of service and it's a lower kind of service or what, because I do not understand. They say we got 4G, so to speak, in this country, and Blaze, and this thing is working terrible, and it's not assisting the teachers in this time that working with those children that could use the internet. Thank you. I'll listen to your comments.
Thank you very much. Yog, you want to talk about telephone company, or you want me to talk about it?
Well, let me put it this way. The question relates to advertisement of services and contracts. And I could say to the caller that where you're receiving a service for any telephone service. This is open discussion, Leonard. But caller, where you're receiving a telephone service, many times as people of this country or any country, we do not check the fine print of the contract we sign. We just click OK, or we tick off OK, and we put our name on a contract. And really and truly, your contract will tell you that the telephone companies offer you a best effort service. So whatever you receive is what you have paid for, in other words. Many countries have had citizens take class action for not giving the kind of services that were promised, or not giving the services that you think you paid for. It's a matter of expectations versus the contract. And I think many times we all must stop and read the contract, what we sign for. Unfortunately, that's all I can say on this, Leonard.
Well, let me jump in there. I like the fact, and I could probably ask you, it's a rhetorical question to you and the people of Guyana. Has our politicians signed a best effort contract, a services contract with the people of Guyana? And it's rhetorical, of course. And the second thing is, I think now more than ever, a new government that comes into place, whether it's incumbent or others, would have to make it a priority, not only reforms to the Constitution, but they have to ensure that because of what COVID-19 would have exposed, that we have more telephone companies in Guyana, because what we have here for services, definitely not good. And what we have here coming from the telephone companies, we would have seen a couple of days back that Digicel is in deep trouble. It's trying to restructure its finances there. And I think it's Antiguan government or one of the government in the Caribbean islands say that they are willing to buy over the shares of Digicel so they could continue operating within the Caribbean. You know, they're in Guyana in direct competition with GT&T. Of course, GT&T, that's a story for an entire day. The madness that is happening, the thing that they call service that they're giving to the people of Guyana. And I say,
but Leonard, Leonard, let me just say this to that caller and to everyone listening and watching. The truth is that the Public Utilities Commission has been very proactive. Not many people know that, Leonard, the Public Utilities Commission actually imposed a penalty on GPL for its quality of service. The impact of that penalty is debatable, but we need to, viewers and listeners, I think everybody need to ensure that if you have complaints about your quality of service, lodge that complaint with the PUC. The PUC is also online. And maybe one of our discussions here, Leonard, we can bring on the chairman of PUC, who, as you know, has been very, very open to meeting the public and having such discussions.
Yes, she's always been very, very helpful. Want to share information with the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, and that's a regulator of the utilities in Guyana. So I think that's something that we'd have to do in a very short
And the
while.
viewer and all viewers and listeners can go to the PUC website. I think the PUC now has sub offices in many parts of the country, many of the townships. But you can go to the PUC website, puc.org.gy, and you will immediately be looking at a complaint section in your face where you can fill out your complaint.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I think there's another caller online. And if you're calling us, yes, good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Mr. Yog and Gildarie.
Yes, sir.
Well, I listen to this program and I find I like it, and it's a very interesting program. But something I really want the art to do every day is allow the Guyanese populace to understand the meaning of the word democracy. We need to push democracy more. That's all I want to contribute to the program.
I do thank you for that. Yog, maybe if at the top of your head, remind us what's democracy again?
Well, look, where you're talking about a government, democracy would relate to, a system of government where all eligible members are put in a government and they know that they represent a set of people. Where we talk about a democracy in terms of a country, it's to allow you to allow fair government. It's to allow a community and a population to enjoy its Bill of Rights, to enjoy its freedoms under the Constitution, and to ensure that there is equality, to ensure that every person's voice is heard, to ensure that every ballot is counted, to ensure that all the rules are adhered to by everyone. If you recall, Leonard, earlier another caller said that he wished that all those who are in government, when they are unwell, they should go to the local hospital and feel what the local people are feeling. So in one form, it's an equality looking at various things, but mostly in terms of government, it's where common people are empowered to be part of a government structure, to be part of a government system. Generally in Guyana, one could say that you have a democracy because the representatives we elect, if you recall, Leonard, the representatives are geographically selected. And I say selected carefully, but those representatives in the National Assembly, they come from the various geographies. So they're supposed to be representing you in your area. The problem we have in Guyana is that the people in the National Assembly, like what Charandas explained last week, they tend to follow a party line first, rather than the cause of the people that they're representing.
Absolutely. And I think when you talk democracy, and I'm learning a lot of things now. I wasn't so familiar with the Constitution and what would have transpired since December the 18th, December 21st, 2018, is that it has been a learning process for me. But one thing I'm very clear in my mind, that somewhere when it comes to reform of the Constitution, I must be able to, as part, if I consider it a democracy, that I must be able to recall that a representative, whether it's a minister or just a plain parliamentarian or somebody at the RDC or NDC level, I must be able to recall them for not functioning in accordance to what they would have gone in there for. And that is very
Correct.
important for me.
Well, Leonard, the truth is that you have a problem in Guyana. Historically, it's always been a winner take all. So if the PPPC wins, whoever is in the opposition will stay in the opposition. If you recall, when Desmond Hoyt lost power, he absolutely rejected the term that they were then using to refer to the opposition leader. You remember that big fight? Yet, when Desmond Hoyt was president and was part of the Burnham's presidents, they had no problem referring to the opposition in those same terms. The problem we have in Guyana is that you have a winner-take-all system where a ruling group, I was just going to say cabal, but a ruling group dominates everything. This country has to realize, each and everyone have to realize, it's our ballot that puts them there. And we have every right to speak out against any government. That's our constitutional right. As long as we do not impinge upon the freedom of others, we have the freedom to protest, to expose, to be respectfully yet openly clear about disagreeing with anything that the government does. And case in point, Leonard, over the past 10 years, one would say, over the past 10 years, that would be 5 years, 5 of the last years of the PPP in office and 5 of this set in office. Guyanese have started to become very outspoken regardless of who's in power. And that is a good thing.
Very good, and I think very well put too. I think we head straight into a call now. Call, good afternoon on the air.
Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I went to for my wife clinic yesterday at the Port Hospital.
We could barely hear you. Could you speak up a little, sir?
I went to Port Hospital to collect my wife. My wife's foot cut off. She diabetic, right? And I went to the clinic yesterday. They only give me 2 tablets, 2 vitamin tablets. They said I get more tablets to give. So the tablets, including which you're supposed to get, all you don't get in the hospital at present now. And I think that the task force will get in this country, just think for themselves. Not think for the Guyanese people. But just for themselves. Because the task force think about Guyanese people, they're going to do something to get the diabetic people to get them a tablet and everything up to date. So they don't think about it. And I feel that this, I think that we should take out the task force and put something else, put somebody else in the task force. Don't put politics people inside. You understand what I'm saying? But, I feel that the task force is just wasting time in this country. And I can't even tell body to tell you that. Because I think our area here is good, and the farmers who are buying tablets of my, I'm a pensioner. Right? I was pensioner. I'm a pensioner. And the people give me a handful yesterday. It's 2 times now you're in handful for this week. The people. You understand me? That goes out. I feel they do a good job for the society. And I must congratulate you and Dr. Mahadeo. A good job you are doing. And continue to do a good job.
Thank you very much.
Right?
Thank you very much, sir. And so you hear many of these stories there. The task force, I want to share this with you. Some days we would sit down and we have a very aggressive, very pushy publisher. And the reason why Kaiser News has gone to the top of the media world in Guyana is because of a lot has to do with Glendale and largely on part of the staffers he's surrounded himself with over the years. But one of the things that he was very passionate about over the last couple of years, which has kind of rubbed off on us, is the value of our resources in Guyana, whether it's our gold, whether it's our bauxite, or right now we're talking about the oil. And that is a big thing. And if we don't understand that it is our national resources which could put the money in our pocket, the wealth in our pocket, via the taxes and revenues, via its royalties or whatever you want to say. In the case of the oil, so much money that is there, and yet we are just getting the crumbs off the table. Why? Because we did not do a good deal. And so if we understand that the problems that we have, and now talking about 1-2 hampers and things like that, we should not be talking about that. We should be talking about the billions of dollars that we have lost from not doing a good deal. And maybe we could chalk it down to inexperience, among other things. What are we doing to correct the situation? So these are some of the conversation. While we complaining now, there's some other things to really think about as we go forward as a country. Where could we put ourselves in a better position to ease the stress? Maybe if a situation like this, if there's a third wave, maybe a fourth wave, somewhere along the line, God forbids. But Yog, we got to seriously think about when we put politicians in there, when it comes to managing our resources and ensuring that we get a better deal, that we put people in there who understand the value of those resources and that we should get a better deal.
Of course. Of course. And Leonard, it's obvious that the press, you guys, you continue to play the role you are. Because remember yesterday or day before yesterday, you and I spoke about the flaring. I see one of our viewers just reminded us. We spoke about the 2 billion cubic feet of gas that was being burnt away by ExxonMobil. When these things hit public, then guess what happens? Today, you are seeing a comment in the newspapers from the head of the EPA, I think it is. And I think we need to have the gentleman and the discussion maybe in one of our programs here or on 592. But we certainly need to have a discussion. But Leonard, the truth is, and I'm really sorry that this caller has experienced that at the hospital. It's one of the things we probably need to talk to our good friends at Ministry of Health with regards to what's the status of the regular pharmaceuticals that people would have expected to be receiving from the public hospitals. Because remember, we were almost guaranteed that notwithstanding COVID, regular health services will continue in the way it was. So we need to know why is it somebody would go for the regular treatment that they would have been receiving and maybe the tablets that they would have been receiving, but they're not now getting that. And just to top it off, in talking about democracy 2 minutes ago, Leonard, don't forget, the hallmark of democracy is free and fair elections.
Absolutely there. And so we go to the phone lines again. Oh, we would have missed that call there. So if you're now joining us, this is a special edition of the Elections COVID-19 Watch. Myself, Leonard Gildarie, and Dr. Yog Mahadeo, been with you over 2 months now, bringing you what matters when it comes to the elections of March 2nd, and of course now the big issue, the bigger picture there, COVID-19 and the implications on not only the economy, but on the livelihood of our people of Guyana. How do we fix it? We want to hear from you, from what is happening in your community across Guyana. So I think there's a caller online. Yes, caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. I have a question for Mr. Yog. Does the Constitution require that if this recount comes up with a lot of irregularities, is there a possibility or they can call a new election? That's my question. Hello?
Yes, Yo, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, I wanted to know if the Constitution say if there were irregularities in this election, if the government can call for a new election.
Okay. Let me answer you off air then, right?
Yes, sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
a good question there, Yog.
So, Leonard, at the end of the day, the GCOM, the recount is the law that we are concerned with now. It's an order that has been gazetted, and that order, the end process of it is a declaration. So regardless of who says what, there has to be a declaration by GCOM at the end of this process. Whether it's a declaration, and I hate to say this because I don't want everybody to get worried out there, but whether it's a declaration using the figures of the recount or it's a declaration using other figures is a different matter and a different discussion that probably we can have tonight in 592. But, Leonard, to answer the caller specifically, the short answer would be no. There has to be an end to these elections. There has to be a declaration from these elections. And maybe immediately, I think that die is cast, Leonard. Immediately upon this elections being decided, there will be petitions. There may be new elections sooner rather than later. But you know, Leonard, the question that I have to counter that, everybody is talking that they need new elections because these elections are discredited. This is one side saying that, not everybody. They're raising all these anomalies. Leonard, will GCOM ever be ready for another elections?
I don't know, but I don't even want to.
You see my point? They went right up to CCJ 1 year ago to say they needed a whole year to be ready. Now, based on all the anomalies they're picking up, they cannot use this list to have another election. So whatever and whoever is sworn in has to form a government and has to run this country until GCOM has its actions in order and gets a credible list that is signed off by all the parties. When that could happen, I don't know. So there are a lot of questions that will be asked and continue to be asked.
What you're saying there is a very hard thing to swallow, but I think there's a caller in line. That's a conversation to be had. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you in the air.
Good afternoon. I'm trying to find out. Now, I have a niece. She used to work with doing cooking with some people. And she lose her job due to this COVID-19. She's having 3 little kids. When I say little, 2 little boys and a girl. Every day, she actually cries because she don't have no help from nowhere. Now, is she eligible for that at Ministry of Social Protection?
If she is eligible for that?
Yeah.
Yes, I rather presume if she is able to put that case to them. I based on what you're saying there, I see. Of course, they would look at the circumstances, but I think these are the cases which would immediately trigger some kind, or supposed to trigger some kind of reaction, a positive reaction.
Because I was calling the numbers and I'm not getting through.
We're going to try to get some other numbers to put on screen because with the numbers that we have right now, I'm going to test it immediately after the show and try to get some other numbers. The numbers that we have were what was given to us, so we don't have any other numbers, but we're going to try to get it and share it with the people of Guyana.
And also, my mom, she's 83, she's a pensioner, and she is the person that runs this house. So, would she be available too?
Well, I could tell you very clearly, and thank you for that question, ma'am. I think that was one of the situation that the government says that would trigger some kind of help or would immediately cause the ministry to say this is a family that needs help. If there's a senior citizen that is the head of a household, they could apply and they would be treated favorably. I think I'm just paraphrasing here, but that family would be supposed to be treated positively when it comes to getting help.
Okay, thank you.
And we're going to get those numbers for you.
Okay, keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. So, Yog, I think when it comes to come back to the discussion when you would have said about what happens next, what does a new government do? And what would probably happen in the configuration of a government being sworn in? I think that's a situation that, or a discussion that I'd be heavily interested in, and Guyana people should start talking about from now. So the government that is coming in, and that should be coming in as early as possible, they would know that these are what people want.
But Leonard, let me show you how impossible a country we are now in. You know, how many polling stations we had, sir?
2,339.
Good. So I just want to draw this to everybody out there, to your attention. So all of a sudden, we are hearing from members in GCOM and from APNU AFC that 2,339 polling officers were all bribed. Right? All of a sudden, we are hearing that the party agents were bribed. So multiply 2,339, 2,339 multiplied by 4 persons in each. That's 10,000 persons. Leonard, how are we going to find persons to run another election in this country? This thing is so serious. It sounds laughable, but it is such a serious indictment upon this country when we are making up all of these narratives and changing the flow every day. Literally what's been happening is now a group of politicians are saying that all the polling officers were bad, all the returning officers were bad, all the party agents were bad, and so who's really wrong? I would like us to probably look for some polling agents and bring them on our program, maybe if they're willing to. And let's talk. Did they fall asleep? Did they not do their job? And more seriously, Leonard, what does the future hold for a country like ours that is now saying that everybody involved in the process had a problem?
Well, I'm not sure there's a conversation to be had. I think there's a recon going. The boxes are showing a particular direction. Many of the boxes are matching up to what the opposition parties are saying. There's some numbers of objections, observations that are being raised. They're being recorded. Do we need to have these sidebars?
But Leonard, yes, let me tell you why. Sir, for anybody to assert, I am looking at a figure for anybody to assert that you had 32 dead persons to vote. First of all, how would a dead person vote? I heard one of them talking, a big person, somebody that I've had respect for, saying that, okay, somebody voted for them. So, Leonard, if you voted for a dead man, where is your vote, sir? Why you didn't vote for yourself? Why you went and vote for a dead person? By saying that, you are saying that somebody voted twice, which means the polling officers, the agents, everybody in that room had to have been under your spell as a dead man then. To say that as of this morning, 964 migrants voted is an indictment upon the people of this country, Leonard. It's no joke. It is a serious accusation as to whether the rest of the people in this country are sober and sane, or are they just trying to blow smoke? I mean, it gets to that state where you have to question this. So yes, sir, the sidebar discussions are extremely important because whatever nonsense is coming out is an indictment on yours, mine, and every viewer and listener, our sanity, and whether we are alive or not.
You know what I would have loved to see, Yog, is a live streaming, video streaming of the proceedings. And so you have Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie raising thing. 3 persons, dead persons voting there, and I would love to see me watching that, and maybe I'm thinking of my reaction, and maybe what I would write in Sunday's column with regards to that. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Could you lower the volume on your radio, please?
No, I don't have radio.
Okay, yes, there's some noise. Go ahead.
I'm at work, but it probably is a change, so I'll be listening to y'all every day.
Thank you very much.
I'm trying to get that. That's the thing that beat me to Mr. Yog. How a dead person could vote. I went and vote. When you go in the polling station, you got the appel outside, check you, make sure you collect the ID card and make sure everything is correct, and then send you to which polling station to vote. So I don't know how they come with dead people voting. And this thing is getting too ridiculous now. I think they should start get the individual sanction and let them catch themselves. That's my point.
Thank you very much. We apologize for the noise there. He says he's calling from a sawmill with a chainsaw there. Yog, you want to answer?
Yes. Well, Leonard, look, we dealt with it. I think the gentleman was asking more or less of a rhetoric question.
Yes.
We dealt with it. But I want to draw something in perspective because one of our viewers, they raised something very important. Look, the truth is that all around the world, there are irregularities, right? So I think somebody named Lupa or something raised a problem that, elections get rigged in many countries. That is so. The truth is, though, there is a difference. This current 2020 elections, to attempt to so transparently change the results of the elections, is what makes it so unpalatable, Leonard. So there is a difference I wish to draw. In every election, there is no such thing as a perfect election.
That's
in
true.
every election, there are going to be anomalies, there are going to be problems, there are going to be people who are going to translate things they want to translate. But if you look at what the Electoral Assistance Bureau would have done many years ago, and you look at what's happening across the world, there are certain paradigms, certain levels of the probabilities they work out to say, okay, this is an acceptable percentage of default. Let's go to 2015 elections, Leonard. Let's go to 1992, when Carter Center said to the then government, to Desmond Hyde, based on the numbers coming in, the PPP has an unassailable lead, and we recommend that you concede. In 2015, it was again based on those numbers. So in the USA, for example, when Hillary Clinton conceded to Donald Trump, it wasn't after the completion of every single vote count. It wasn't after the completion of the count of every vote. It's after you would have assessed that based on the numbers counted so far, you have an unassailable lead. This is what happened on March 5th, 6th, and 7th, when the PPP said, based on our assessment, we have an unassailable lead, which the APNU AFC refused to accept. So the truth is, to repeat and to put it in summary, there are always going to be anomalies and problems. Whether those anomalies and problems are enough to overturn what is the probability is another question. And next week on Room 592, Leonard, you and I, as you know, we are going to be looking at numbers. We're going to be having some hard, incisive look at the numbers. How many observations have been made? How many objections have been made? And how does it relate to the valid votes cast, and whether it can change the result? I'm hoping that next week we'll gather a team together that will bring these analysis to the people.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. And talking about numbers, we're out of time this evening. We're going to be back at 7:30, room 592. And the private sector is going to be with us. They have an observation team talking about the recount. So thank you for joining us wherever you are. Have a pleasant rest of the day. And we're going to see you this evening again.